So this is Cairo from TT Leadership, and I have here my guest is Rozana Halpin. Give her a big hand. Yay! All right.
Giving myself a big hand.
Right. So how are you today, Rozana?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. I'm good. I'm good. Good. Good to have you. We haven't met for some time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Right. Happy to do so. Right. So tell us a bit more about your topic today.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, so today I am going to be talking about resilience.
All right.
And the reason why I decided to choose this topic is because obviously the situation that we're in is requiring a lot of resilience, right? So I thought it was an appropriate topic to talk about.
Right. And you told me last night, that you wanted the audience to bring a pen and paper. Can you tell us more why?
Yeah, so the reason why I said that was because at the end of this conversation, I'm hoping to share a tool that I've used in my coaching that I feel, and I use it in my life too. So, and I feel that it's very helpful and it's very useful in developing resilience. So if they want to just take notes at the end, because there's various steps involved,
Right.
it would be good. Yeah.
All right. Good. Fantastic. No, I'm really excited, and I got a few messages also yesterday from my colleagues saying, you know, what is with Rozana thing about? Say you should join, and because this is really a real deal, right? Okay.
Well, let's
so
hope so. I don't want to disappoint people.
yeah, don't worry. I mean, we've done coaching together. You never disappoint. That's a good start,
Good.
right? Okay.
Aim
So
to please.
right. So we spoke about some context, yeah, on this, and I really like the two-liner that you gave me about yourself, right? Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, so I'm a certified coach
Right.
and a trainer. Um, this is a second career for me, and the reason why I started coaching and training is because of this core belief that I have about human beings having everything that they need inside of them to be the best people they can be in this world. And I think coaching is a really good tool to kind of unleash and unlock that potential, and that's the reason why I'm doing it.
Right. Okay. So we are currently in COVID-19 a pandemic situation. Yeah, it's no joke. It's almost every corner of the world is affected by this.
Yes.
So how is it like for you?
Okay. So I'm an extrovert. I thrive.
Extrovert.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thrive on my human connection and my human interactions, and I kind of, I love being around people. So initially it was quite hard for me to lose that, even though I don't live on my own. I have my family, but even then I felt like I don't know, I felt a little bit displaced, if you like. And also prior to this whole MCO, I was busy, working and putting proposals together and all of that kind of stuff. And I didn't realize how busy and stressed I was. So when the whole thing came in, I literally stopped working for like 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did nothing. I used social media, watched Netflix, did all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, I found that I had more energy. I feel renewed now. I feel like I'm ready to take on the world again,
Right.
because I took the 2 weeks break. So
Okay.
yeah, it's been good, I think.
Okay. Okay. That's an interesting context that you put there, right? I mean, the thing that you did, where instead of jumping into what we call quickly make change, right? You took time to really look at situations and binge on Netflix and stuff like that before getting yourself composed and know what's happening, right? So is that part of what you call resilience, or in your context, or why do you do that?
Absolutely. I think it's part of resilience. I believe it's part of resilience because resilience, as you know, so I'm going to go straight into what the terminology is, right?
Yeah.
So resilience is a buzzword right now. It's been bandied around a lot. People use it in every single context: leadership, personal development. They talk about it in parenting, even. In the wellness industry. So it's a real buzzword. What does it actually mean, and why is it so relevant? So the way the world is right now, we're experiencing a lot of uncertainty. It's becoming like constant uncertainty. So environmentally, what we're doing is there's a lot of natural disasters, and they're happening quite a lot. There's things like, that forest fire that happened in Australia recently, and all of this kind of stuff have displaced people, and they have had a socio-economic impact on the world, right? But also globalization and technology have also meant that the changes in the whole business organizational arena is very constant. It's happening very rapidly. I'm sure you've heard of the term VUCA, right?
Yeah, VUCA.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us more. I mean, for the benefit of the audience.
Okay, so VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And all of these things, what it's saying to you is like, we don't know, right? All those words means we don't know what's going to happen next. But these are the circumstances that we're having to deal with, and we'll be dealing more of in the future. It's going to become the norm. So resilience, in the sense, it's really key for us to be able to move forward, either in businesses, in organizations, or even as people, because this is how the world is going to be. Right. So that's technically, why resilience is so talked about right now. But it's a broad term. Resilience is a broad term. But the general definition is really about being able to recover quickly from challenges or circumstances that are beyond your control. So they talk about bounce and grit as being synonymous with resilience. And elasticity. Elasticity is a really good terminology to use when you talk about resilience, because if you think about a rubber band,
you have Lina Doll, your neighbor, saying hi.
Hi, Lina.
All right, go ahead. Resilience.
So if you talk about elasticity, we use the analogy of a rubber band, for example, right? So you stretch a rubber band,
right?
But when you let go, it goes back to where it was before. And that's really what resilience is. So your circumstances, your stresses, or the challenges that you are doing are stretching you. But when you're resilient, you're able to bounce back to your normal pre-crisis state, if you like. So that's resilience.
Right. So I want to do a bit of recap over there. Now you mentioned about VUCA, which is volatility, uncertainty, chaos, and ambiguity, right? And things are moving very fast. And you also mentioned about how that someone in trying times, they can stretch themselves and they should be able to compose themselves again. But again, people are going through a lot of things in their life, right? So what would be the difference of probably not being able to eat and having to lock down? Are these two problems similar or the same when you look at resilience point of view?
Sorry, so your question was, what is the difference between...
I mean, you have two different people go through different things, right? People have their own set of problems.
Yes.
Does the two problems alike? For example, like someone who say, the food is not good, and the other one having to lock down, right? Are these two problems similar? Or take, for example, someone who is not able to eat. Are these two or three problems similar from resilient perspective?
Yeah, it's all about resilience. So how do you overcome that situation? So if you're not able to eat, it will stress you out, right? It's a stressor. It's a challenge. So how do I overcome that problem? So if you're not able to eat because of some biological things, so you can't chew, for example. Maybe you could think about drinking a liquid diet, for example, having soup. So that's resilient, because you know your body needs food. You know you need to feed your body, but you have this challenge. So how do you overcome that challenge? So yes, in essence, it is resilience. You could just say, I'm not going to eat. You could. I'm not going to eat because I can't eat, and then you can't think of another solution. But that's not being resilient. So you do require resilience in every single aspect of your life, and there are different levels of resilience.
Right. Okay. I like the part where you mentioned that there are different levels of resilience. Can you enlighten us a little bit more about these few levels that you have? That'd be good.
Okay, so why do I say that? Because I think resilience is demonstrated by people all the time in many different ways. So the fact that we don't like our jobs, for example, we're not happy in our work, and we still get up in the morning and we still make it out there and go to work is resilience, because you're overcoming that negative thought, if you like, about going to work. I don't like it, I'm not enjoying it, yet you go through the steps that you need to get yourself there. So that's resilience. And then there's bigger things, I don't know, like people who suffer from maybe a form of cancer, and they overcome that, and they manage to not let it influence their life in so much, because what they say about mindset. Sometimes mindset is a stronger thing than even physical and biological challenges, right? So if you're resilient, you will take the whole situation and you can look at it in a positive light and still be able to live a life that's fulfilling. That's resilience. Or you can let it take you down, which is the opposite of resilience.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm getting more interested with this resilient thing that you mentioned, right? But how does resilient in normal days, day to day, different than resilient in a pandemic situation? Yeah, where everyone almost panicked initially. I mean, I did almost like what you did. In fact, actually, I was sick just few days before the MCO. I got sick really bad for 2 weeks. Yeah. And then after 2 weeks I recovered. I just realized what happened. Right. So when you are sick, I just forget about everything else. So how does resilience different from in the normal days and in the pandemic situation, and it's global? Your views, Rozana.
Yeah. Okay, so at this point, what I want to do is I want to bring in this concept of what we call the window of tolerance. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Okay.
It's based on a study by Dan Siegel. Sorry, you've moved me ahead a little bit here, so I'm just gonna, so I don't take you up the garden path. Okay, right. So it's a study by Dr. Dan Siegel. So what it's saying is that everybody has a window of tolerance within which they operate in. Okay, and for every single person, that window of tolerance is different. So your window of tolerance might be different to mine, but also depending on the circumstances, how we're feeling, what's actually happening, what we're doing, the window of tolerance can also change. So it's not a static thing. It's a thing that moves around. So for example, if I can just illustrate, when you wake up in the morning, you've had a good night's sleep, you've had your breakfast, you haven't rushed to get to where you're getting to, so you're in a calm kind of state. If a disappointment comes up and something doesn't go to plan, a challenge comes up, you would be better able to deal with it because of how you're feeling, right? Because you're in a good state of mind. So your window of tolerance at that time is wide. Because you're able to look at that particular challenge and you can approach it in a calm way. You can overcome it. And then throughout the day, later on in the day, you might be feeling a bit more tired, you might be hungry, you might have been caught up in meetings all day, and something doesn't go to plan. Then your capacity for tolerating that disappointment might be smaller. So your window of tolerance then becomes narrower. So your window of tolerance is how you operate. It's your optimal level where you can operate in a nice, calm state. So when something happens to displace us, like something like this pandemic, it's a huge crisis. Like you say, it's happening on a global level. We have never experienced this before. Simultaneously, every single human being is experiencing this. So it's huge, phenomenal thought, right? So we get displaced. It's a crisis. So things will fall outside of our window of tolerance. So when it falls outside, we either go into what we call a hyper arousal state or a hypo arousal state. So when you're in a hyper arousal state, you experience anxiety, frustration, anger, and when you are in a hypo arousal state, you tend to numb that feeling. You tend to go into a low-key kind of vibration, if you like. So you go to sleep, or you just ignore the feeling. You try and like numb yourself. So those are the two states that you're going into. So when you talk about the panic buying, it's driven by this hyper arousal, because you have never experienced this before. It falls outside of your window of tolerance. So you're experiencing high levels of anxiety. And people who are very resilient, they're able to have this self-talk and self-calming mechanism that's telling them, no, it's okay, the shops are still open, I can still get there, the supermarkets are still open, I don't need to hoard. But there's people that are responding to it in a different way. So the anxiety is actually, there was a study that was done on this, actually, interestingly enough, and what they're saying is the anxiety is diminishing the ability to reason. So it's creating a fear, and what these people are fearing is that, one day the people that panic buy and hoard all the toilet paper, they're probably scared that one day they're going to be sitting on the toilet and they reach out for toilet paper and there's none there. And they might end up sitting on that toilet till the MCO is over. I'm sorry, I'm just joking. But I mean, that's what the state is, like I'm fearful that I'm going to have lack and it's going to run out and I'm not going to have it and everybody's going to take it. And, so it's driven by a hyper arousal state. And it's not a resilient state of mind.
Right. Great. I think you have made a few points over there. Thanks so much. No, I like the part where you mentioned about some of the examples, right? Where people are becoming more resilient when even in this pandemic situation. But I think I would like to bring you and also the audience to one report that I read recently, from McKinsey. Can we go there for a while?
Sure.
Yep. So I'm going to show this, and I want to surprise. The best part is what I find out from McKinsey report. The full report, you can go to this link, just type COVID McKinsey, you'll be able to see the report, and I think it's very consistent with what you said earlier on, as Rozana, that during this time, resilience, even in this report, it says the 5 actions institution could take. One is resolve, resilience, return, reimagination, and reform. If you look here, it says that address a near-term. For example, this is in a company situation. Address the near-term cash management challenges and broader resiliency issues. Right. So what I'm going to bring this topic is where in other words, even a global company is talking about resilience of the business, and what more in people, right? But the thing is, resilience is such a unique feature of human, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Right. Can this be nurtured, or is it embedded, or is it already inborn? Your thoughts?
That's a
Rozana.
very good question.
Thank you.
And there has been various differing opinions about this. But I can only tell you from what is my personal opinion on it, right? So is it a character? Is it a trait that you have? So as a coach, and I've said this before, that I truly believe that we have everything within us. We have resilience, we have courage, we have focus, we have creativity, we have everything that we need. So it's just a matter of how can we tap into that resilience and how can we grow it to a higher level, right? So and it's a purposeful thing. You can actually tap into it purposefully. If you want to be resilient, you can hire a coach, you can go training or whatever it is, and you can tap into that. So is it a trade? So I want to talk about the diamond. I'm going to use a diamond analogy. Okay.
All right.
So a diamond is formed through pressure and intense temperature. Okay, and becomes something harder, and it becomes something more beautiful. It becomes something that everybody wants. And resilience is very much like that. So you put yourself under a lot of purposefully put yourself in situations where it's challenging you, and through that you become more resilient, like the diamond. So you get more stresses, you learn to deal with it better, and you become more resilient. So in that sense, I feel like it's a trait, it's a character that you can have. Everybody has it. And then is it a skill? Is it something that you can teach? Because resilience is so many facade to it. It's not a one thing. I feel like you can't teach resilience, but you can show people how to develop resilience. And in that sense, it's a skill. So how do you show people how to develop resilience? You can teach them strategies, you can give them tools, you can coach them through so that they understand what their own internal world is like and how that helps them. So in that sense, because you can help people develop it, it's a skill, right? Yeah. And then the other question is it a behavior? And I believe it's a behavior too, because resilient people display resilient behavior. So we all, I'm sure, can think of one example of a person that we look at and we think, wow, he's resilient, right? And how do we know that? Because we see the behaviors that they're displayed that indicates that they're resilient. So in my personal opinion, it's all three. Resilience is all three. It's multifaceted.
Right. Good point. Rozana, I like the explanation. Yeah. You talk about resilience is learnable, it is teachable, it is also a skill, right? And one thing that I like about one of the things you mentioned just now, that resilience can also be nurtured via a coach like yourself, via what we call reading, or via looking at others. And I like to bring up the fourth part that you mentioned just now, that you can also learn resilience looking at your own experience, right?
That's right.
Right. So how does someone in a situation where, there are some people, I know even in my life, at some point in my life as I'm growing up, I have this question, why is always have to be me whenever I got into trouble?
What you mean?
Yeah.
You mean you get blamed for a lot of stuff?
Yeah, I got blamed, I got into trouble, but not so really the cop stuff, nothing criminal. It's just that, why has always to be me, So, but my question is, but of course, as I grow up, I get to learn from mentors, coaches, my bosses, my ex-bosses, and I'm beginning to realize that I could also learn a lot from my own experience, right?
That's right.
So how does someone reflect on that, their own life experience and develop resilience?
Okay, so that I actually will cover in the tool that I will talk about later.
Right.
But I think it's with developing resilience, you have to take what you can from every single source that works for you. So it could be role model, taking from a role model. It could be from your own experience. It could be from reading a book. It could be from anything, even your spiritual books. It could be anything that is helpful to you. But what is key in that question that you're asking me is this whole idea of self-awareness, right? Because if you don't have that, how would you be able to reflect on your own experience and use that experience to be more resilient?
All right. I mean, what would be some, you mentioned just now about a tool, right? What would be some simple tool you can share with us for someone like me who wanted to reflect on my own experience and develop resilience?
Okay, so I mentioned about self-awareness being the most key thing for you to be able to reflect on yourself, right? So how do you develop self-awareness? Personally, what I normally recommend is, and this is something that's worked for me as well, is self-awareness is the ability to know, look at your actions, look at your thoughts in a kind of like a passive way, if you like. So you're able to take what you've done, what you're thinking, and analyze it. So that's self-awareness, and look at it in an objective way. So one of the things that I practice is I meditate. For me, it's almost like, not that I was forced into it, but it was a strategy that I felt like I had no choice but to undertake, because I was undergoing a time in my life where it was very stressful and I was very reactive. I was always in hyper arousal state, so I was just reacting all the time, and I wasn't able to control it. And even though, that's not who I was, but because the particular situation then made it happen like that, I felt like I needed something to help me. This was years ago, and I happened across meditation. And meditation is a really powerful tool in that it allows you to create a small space between thought and action. And that is self-awareness. So that's one key tool. So because you have that small space, what happens is you have a thought and you don't get triggered. You have that space to think, okay, what's the best way to react to this that's not going to be have a negative impact, right? So meditation is a good tool. The other thing that gets is talked about a lot, and I do it, but I don't do it as a diary or a journal, but you do what works for you, is to always remember the good things in your life. So at your most difficult point in your life, and you think, oh, woe is me, I'm a victim, why does this happen to me? Why is it always me? Why is it, why am I in this particular situation? Think about your blessings. Think about the things that you should be grateful for. The fact that you have a home. They're very small things, but some people don't have them. So gratitude, feeling gratitude and being grateful for something every single day is helpful, is also a tool.
Right. Okay, that's a good point you brought up over there. I put it on the screen as well. Yeah. Think about your blessings, feeling grateful and gratitude. But Rozana, we're talking about pandemic here.
Yes.
Yeah. When, for example, even in companies, again, companies are made of people. The managers, the leaders, the bosses, the janitors, the cleaners, the executives. So when everybody in a company, for example, in this pandemic situation, and they have different kind of resilience level for each of them, right? So what's your thought from your experience as a coach and going through a lot of story of yourself? Who should be responsible in the company when it comes to resilience in this kind of situation?
Who should be responsible in a pandemic situation?
Yeah, I mean about resilience in the company situation, because when we go through, for example, a little thing that in our life, problems or challenges, it's ourselves, right? So we can always think gratitude, be grateful, and probably do a little story to me, do meditation, or for me, when I do prayers, I use that opportunity to
Absolutely.
calm myself down. I find it very useful.
Yeah.
In my personal time, that's okay. But for example, like CEOs, for companies or leaders who are thinking about their people, right? And all these people have different kind of level of resilience.
Right.
So in that situation for company, I just want to sidetrack a little bit.
Mm.
Who should be responsible to remind about this, being grateful, about being the good story that the company should have? Who should be responsible in this situation?
Okay. Okay, when we talk about responsibility, I always have this view that everybody has a responsibility for their own well-being. So when we work for people, we have a responsibility for our own internal stuff, right?
Yeah.
But when you work for a company, who is responsible? So you're talking about leadership. Are you talking about a leadership thing here?
Yeah, probably you could say that.
Okay. I think internally as people, we need to be responsible for our own resilience. But as leaders, we can promote resilient tools. We can put quotes out. We can put, things that work for us. We can be human. As leaders, we can be human too. We can say, look, I'm experiencing the same anxiety as you. I'm also, feeling a bit cooped up, whatever it is. And this is what's worked for me. And because you're a leader in that company and you are showing them that it's okay to feel what they're feeling, you're going down to like a human level, even though it's an organization, but it's made up of people. The leader's a person, the cleaner's a person, the admin person's a person, your managers are people. So go down to that human level and lead them in that way. Show them that you are just as human as they are, and give them resources, tips, tell them it's okay. These are all leadership roles that everybody should undertake at this time.
Right. Okay. For example, in that in the company, right? Is this really a bad time to invest, or rather to try out something of resilience? Pandemic is happening, people are locked down, and then maybe through this session they realize, we need a resilient. Is this too late, Rozana?
It's never too late.
Why?
Learning is an ongoing process, and companies that invest in their people to learn to be better. A company that have a resilient workforce will be a resilient company.
Oh, that's good.
Because right, because you're made up of these entities of people. So no, it's never too late. Because if anything that's happening right now that people should look at it as is a teachable moment. It's a learning thing. Right? We never anticipated that. Right? There'll be things that will happen in the future that we cannot anticipate either.
Yeah.
So how do we minimize the potential for disruption? How do we minimize the potential for the possibility of us maybe failing? We do that through investing in our people to be more resilient, so they can be more innovative and they can overcome these obstacles.
Right. I like the part where you mentioned that the disruption. I like the part where you mentioned about innovation. That's something that I'm into. I really agree that it's never too late to learn. It's never too late to work something on resilience. And I also personally believe that this situation is not going to be over just like that. There will be other things that might come out after COVID. You never know, and going through certain programs or going through certain skills to develop resilience, definitely a good investment. But the thing is, Rozana, I have a next question for you, which is on how can we practice resilience?
Okay, so this is where the tool that I talked about is going to be very useful. And the reason why I bring it is because it has worked. It has worked for me. It has worked for my clients.
Right.
So I think this is a point where I would, if people are interested, maybe they can take out their pen and paper, because it does involve steps. it is a deliberate thing, because I think in everything in life, if we're not deliberate about it, then it just becomes, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So you need to be deliberate in becoming resilient. But the first thing I want to say as well is that before we go into this tool, with what is happening right now, because it's such a crisis, that we need to first be very compassionate and very kind to ourselves. So if we're feeling anxious, we're feeling like we're not coping, we're feeling like overwhelmed, we need to not beat ourselves up over it. Remember when I said to you that for 2 weeks I did nothing, I did no work, and you can have a propensity to kind of like feel guilty about it and say, oh my God, I should be working, and you don't enjoy the time, right?
Yeah.
So I think the important thing to remember at this point is that we are experiencing a pandemic. It's not a contest on who is the most resilient, who can cope the most, who can be the most productive. It's not that kind of competition. We need to address that. So whatever coping mechanisms that we have right now and it's working for us, go ahead and do it. Practice that self-compassion and kindness to yourself. So, but then once you kind of like, you've done that, you need to acknowledge what it is that you're feeling. So if you're feeling anxious or angry or frustrated, you need to put a name to that feeling. You need to put a name to the emotion so that you can understand it and you can tackle it, if you like. If you know exactly what you're feeling, then you can address it, right? So those are the things that I want you to bear in mind first before we go through this tool that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So
I have to stop you there for a while.
Sure.
There was a comment from just now from Sri Drona Devi.
Right.
She mentioned about resilience and patience, right? So how does resilience and patience work together, or are they different? Are they the same? Tell us more.
Okay. I think, are they the same? No, they're not the same. Resilience is a very it has a lot of elements to it. It's not as one thing. So I guess patience plays a part in being resilient.
Right.
Because you still, when you're resilient, you're calmer in stressful situations. So there's an element of patience that you have to display, and for you to be patient, you have to be calm. So it's intertwined. There's a lot of things that are, that makes up a resilient mindset. And I guess patience is one of them.
Yeah, good. And I like the part where you mentioned one keyword called compassion, right?
Yes.
What is compassion to you from your experience when it comes to resilience?
Okay. So compassion means it's kind of like akin to empathy. So you can only have compassion when you have empathy. This is my personal opinion. So if you're able to, so if somebody's shouting at you, for example, and they're being really angry, so you can choose to react to that anger, and you can start to be not compassionate, I guess, and say, just see that they're shouting at you and it's bringing up a feeling in you that's not nice. Or you can practice empathy and you can look at that person, see that they're angry and think, okay, maybe this anger is being driven by something else. Could it be that this person is facing challenges in their life? Because remember, we talked about the window of tolerance. So obviously they're angry because they're in hyper arousal state and they're not able to tolerate that situation. So they're having stresses in their life that we cannot see, we don't know about. So we need to be empathetic to that particular point, that they might be going through challenges that we know nothing about.
Right.
So once you can feel that and you can practice that, then compassion will come easier. Then you will not react in the same way. You won't end up shouting at them. You won't end up having an argument. So you could practice compassion the way like, okay, I'm sorry if that you feel like this, and I hope that you feel better. If this, I'm sorry that this has affected you in this way. So that is being compassionate, because you're telling that person that, I'm sorry that you're angry. I'm sorry that, you're not able to cope right now. That's compassion. So how does it tie in with the resilience is, I think, if it's, again, when I talk about resilience being multifaceted, compassion does play a part in it. Because how does it play a part? Because when you can be compassionate, so remember in that scenario I just told you, you were being compassionate, and therefore you were not reacting to that trigger of the person shouting you. So you're practicing resilience in that compassionate moment.
Okay, so even that is considered being resilient. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's Okay. Resilience is like multifaceted.
Right. So it's not that hard though. Say sorry, have heart, be compassion, be empathic situation. I just want to bring one situation in this pandemic now, right? So we have a lot of our frontliners, nurses, doctors, leaders, and we know about the clusters of the people that is going through COVID-19. They have to get tested, and there's a certain cluster. They say that they got angry. They got to the frontliners, right? So what would be? And in the conversation that we have now, I don't think these people who are acting this way is not being compassionate, right? It's not being empathic, right? So what's your own take on the situation? Why probably that the people in that cluster did that, and there's certainly reason why they did that, but why they did that in your opinion?
Okay, so back again to that window of tolerance.
Yeah.
They are fearful, right? It's the hyperarousal state is a fight. It's a fight state. So they're fighting for survival. They think this is what it is. So their fear is that they will catch the virus. They will die because of the virus. So that's their fear. And from the limited knowledge that they have, they think that people that are in constant contact. It's the same thing with this Asian, being blamed worldwide for being the source of the virus, right? So they think people who are frontliners are the ones that are in constant contact. So therefore they must be infected. And therefore, if they are infected and they come into close contact with me, then I will get it, and then I will get the virus, and I will die. So that's a fear. It's a hyper-arousal state. And you're right. It's not a compassionate frame of mind. It's very unrealistic. But there's no self-awareness there. It's just reacting to a situation.
Right. I would. I'm with you when it comes to this, right? So, what would be something, maybe tips for the people who are in the clusters, right? If they are watching this, or probably this thing travel to their view sooner or later, what would be one or two tips that you can share for these people to be more resilient during this situation?
Okay, so a few things. Firstly, I would encourage them to get a more balanced information, because the way that their mind is working, it appears like they are feeding it with a lot of fear enticing news. But there's another side of it. For example, if you're just looking at death rates and number of positive cases, and you're not looking at recovery rates, that's not going to balance your view, right? Because there's a lot of people that are actually recovering from this virus, so that's one way. Balance the information that you're getting so that you have a better perspective of what is happening. And two, remember that these are the people that are going out there, saving lives, being at the forefront of it, and they are risking their lives for you. So that's empathy and compassion. So remember that. Maybe think outside yourself. So if you were to feed on that fear, say, okay, what if I fall ill, right? And I end up in hospital? Who's going to look after you? Is it not going to be the front line?
Yeah.
So you need to think of yourself as part of a whole, a bigger picture, that you cannot exist in entirety. You cannot cure yourself. You're going to need these people. So therefore, these people need you to be compassionate. They need you to, not be doing these things to them.
Right. Okay, that's good point. And what about okay, that's for the patient, right? Or the clusters are going through their situation. What about for the frontliners? How do they practice resilience? They work long hours. Crazy.
They do.
I mean, not just here, everywhere.
They're practicing resilience already.
Yeah. So, I mean, how would you like the clusters people, who got angry and stuff like that? They don't have information.
Right.
They have lack information and they've been watching probably too much social media. They only look at the death rate. What about the nurses, doctors? They have a lot of information, yet they could be fearful of the situation for themselves. But they have kids, they have family, right? So, what would be your take for them to practice resilience in this dire situation?
Okay, I think for them, the most important thing is support. Because they understand what they're doing. They understand why they're doing that. When we talk about the medical frontliners, if you like, it's obvious that they're doing it because there's a higher purpose within them, right? And that's what is saving lives. It's helping people who are sick. Because it's not an easy thing that they do, even without the pandemic. So they have a higher level of purpose, a higher mission in life. So remember that, and then draw on the supports that you have. So it could be, your own family. It could be. There's a lot of helplines that have come up now. I'm actually part of a group of coaches that are providing free, toll-free helpline for frontliners to call in. I can share that with you later if you like.
Please.
So then if they need a friend to talk them through, they have somebody. We even have a psychologist who is experienced and specializes in trauma that can help them with strategies, should they feel like they need it. But I think the support network is the most important thing for these frontliners. Have the support in place, people you can talk to, people you can cry to, people you can, just rant and say, what is wrong with these people.
But Rozana, in for the frontliners, they don't even have time. How could they talk to someone where they wouldn't even have time? So how could they practice this or have the support system in their workplace or in their own situation right now? Your thoughts?
Okay, well, they don't have time because they don't make the time to be self-compassionate and kinder to themselves. Because the thing about when you're trying to help other people, you can only help people in so much as what is your capacity. So if you're running very low on self-compassion and self-kindness, it's very hard for you to be able to demonstrate it. So you talk about, people talk about having this, you're like a jug of water, right? And you're replenishing people's thirst. You're giving them drinks. But if your pitcher is empty, and you're not filling it up, you're not able to do that, right? So it's about making that time. And sometimes, I don't know, but in my experience, even 5 minutes of ranting and somebody listening to you and giving you that space to voice out what you're feeling, voice out what your frustrations are, is enough to get you to the next level, make you that little bit more resilient.
Okay. Right. I like the part where you mentioned that where ranting to someone can also, and have that someone to listen to you can reduce the anxiety and fear and increase resilience. So those are one tips, no, that the frontliners could do, and the things that you do, normal thing you do with them is to become that someone they can run to. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or look for them. It's like look for somebody you can unleash your frustration at, not at, but to. So it's not about like being angry with that person, but it's about like, I'm really frustrated about this. Get it out there.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're allowed to feel that.
Right.
You're working long hours. You're having to deal with a lot of idiots, sorry,
Yeah.
but you have lack of equipment, so you're allowed to feel frustrated, you're allowed to feel angry, but create that space for yourself.
Yeah.
Use what resources you have, the support network that you have, to be able to voice that out, and it will give you that little extra bit of resilience that you need.
Right. I like that thought, Okay, just a little bit there. I know we sidetrack a little bit, but I really want to nail this down because we are talking about resilience in the pandemic situation, and I could see I think there's about a few group of people now. One is really at the front line facing all the stuff. One is the other patient also facing on the other spectrum, the other extreme spectrum of the COVID situation, and there's some people in the middle who try to be balanced, right? I think the people in the middle balance are probably not so much of an issue because they don't realize they are resilient, but that they practice resilience. But these two extreme people, right? The nurses, you shared about something, and the cluster you share about something. And do you agree if I say that the family of the frontliners are really resilient and in supporting this situation that we go through right now? Your thoughts?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because every time the family member who is a frontliner is going out there to face this, very close contact with this virus, it will bring up a fear. It's like, is today the day they're going to get the virus? Is today the day that they're going to be positive, or is today the day? So they have to deal with that fear. So how do they pacify that fear? So they, it's about using strategies like balancing it. Well, yesterday she went out and she came back and she didn't catch the virus. You have to take it to kind of like that level.
Yeah.
And remember when they didn't, rather than trying to think about the fear and the worst possible outcome.
Yeah. And in that context, about what you shared just now, does resilience also, because you mentioned about the multi-facets of resilience, you talk about compassion, you talk about empathy, does in this frontliners situation, right, their family and the frontliners themselves, it seems that the family is a great resilience, and there's one part of that resilience is about sacrifice.
Yeah.
Do you think sacrificing for others, for their family members, is also part of resilience, to develop resilience?
Okay, so when you talk about sacrifice, you're talking about really about your purpose, right? So I mentioned that with these frontliners, especially the ones that are working in the medical line, it's a purpose. It's about saving lives and the greater good, the bigger picture, whatever it is. And when you have this purpose and you have this mission and this big picture of what your contribution is in this world and in this life, you know that there will be sacrifices that will come hand in hand with that. Even like for us who are not working at that level, if we want to start a business, we have to make sacrifices. Sacrifices comes hand in hand with goals and purpose and all of that, right? So the bigger your goal, the bigger your purpose is in life. Sometimes it will involve bigger sacrifices. Yeah. So sacrifice will play a part. Yes.
Right. Thank you. That's really great sharing, Rozana. Now, so the tool. Let's get back to the tool.
Yeah.
We have about 6 minutes before 12.
I think we might just fit it in if people write fast.
Right. Okay. Tell us more.
Yeah, so this tool is what I call a personal resilience plan.
Okay.
And remember, we talked about drawing on past experiences, and
Right.
this is key. And even in coaching, you're a coach, so you know that past experiences are the best thing that we have to draw on to move us to the next level, right? So this is a personal resilience plan.
All right.
And there's two parts of it. So the first part is to draw on past experience. So what you need to do first is think about a recent situation where you have overcome a difficulty, overcome a challenge in your life, right?
Okay.
So think about that first, write it down, describe it in detail. Okay, so write it down. And then as you think about this situation and what happened and how you overcome it, think about the support network that was in place that helped you overcome this challenge. So it could be a friend, a coach, a boss, a family member that you talked to, and they helped you. So this is your support network. Who are these people? Write them all down. Right? Write a list if you have to. If it's a lot of people, write them all down. So that would be the second step, is your support network. The third thing is identify the tools that helped you at this time. So what was it that helped you get into a better frame of mind and help you overcome that situation? Could it be that you read a book? Could it be that you exercise and it helped you get into a better frame of mind? Did you meditate? Did you start a gratitude journal? Did you practice self-compassion and go for a massage and felt better? Did you go for a walk? Whatever it is that helped you overcome that particular time, all the tools that helped you overcome that challenging time, write it down. Write down a list.
Okay.
Yeah. So we talked about the support network, we talked about tools, and then the next thing you need to think about is what were the fixing behaviors that you displayed to help you deal with that. So, for example, did you sit there and problem solve? Did you research new information to give you a balanced view or to help you problem solve? Did you make a plan? Did you have to negotiate with somebody? Did you speak up? Did you reach deep inside yourself, found the courage to speak up and voice your opinion? Did that help you? Did you ask somebody for help? So what were the fixing behavior? What were the solution-oriented behaviors that you employed to help you overcome that challenge?
Yeah. So you're saying this is some sort like doing some reflection. Is that reflection?
This part is purely about reflection, but actually putting it down in black and white so that it's something that you can use as a plan. Okay, so because these are the things that have worked for you. So if they've worked for you, then they resonate with you. So they will more than likely will work for you again, right? So you need to remember that. So we talked about the support network. We talked about the tools that have helped us. We talked about the fixing behavior that we employed, that we displayed to help us overcome. And the last thing is about what is the internal understanding that we applied to help us. What this means is this. So, you could have like a footballer who is your role model, and he might have said something that really resonated with you and that you thought of at that point in time and helped you. Or it could be a quote from somewhere. It doesn't have to be anybody, but a particular quote that you thought of at that time. It's like, yes, this is what I need to do, and it's helped you. Or it could be something from the spiritual books that you have, like the Quran, the Bible, whatever it is, a quote from there, a passage from there, a learning from there that helped you overcome it, or something that you learned from your own past experience. So this, this is what I thought then, and it helped me then. And so what was that insight? What was that understanding? What was that wisdom that you employed to help you overcome that particular situation? Write everything down. Okay, there is no right or wrong. It's what worked. Okay, what was most helpful. So just to help you remember what these 4 things are, I've put it into an acronym, and the acronym is STFU.
Okay.
Okay, so support network, the tools, the fixing
STFU.
behavior.
You're not kidding,
You're
right?
gonna forget that?
Okay.
You're gonna forget that.
Okay. Tell me more.
You're not gonna forget that, right?
Right, I
for your
will.
support network.
I promise you.
T for the tools that you
S
employ.
is for support network.
Yeah.
All right.
So F is for the tools that you use.
Right, I'm nervous writing this down. Okay.
F
T is for tools, is it?
Yeah, tools that you use to
All
help
right.
you overcome.
All right.
So F is the fixing behaviors. So what is the internal insight that you use for fixing behavior?
All
What
right.
did you employ to help you? And U is for the internal understanding that you have around it. So your past experience or quotes that you use from other people,
Right.
That helped you. So STFU is the structure that you have from your
Right.
past experience, right? There's a second part to this, which is now you have a plan. You have a plan about which is what worked for you in the past, right?
Right.
So now think about your current difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it? What is the challenge? My challenge right now. Okay.
Alright.
So write that down. Explain it in detail, the same detail as you explain your past experience. So what is
Right.
around it? Everything that's around it.
Right.
And then apply that STFU resilience plan to your current situation.
Right.
So you looked at all the things that you've put down and say, okay, these are all the things that have helped me in the past. What can help me again from this whole list of things? Is there something that worked the last time that I can tweak a little bit to suit the situation? So for example, if the last time you called friend A to help you, maybe friend B might be a better place to help you this time, right?
Right.
So does that make sense?
Yeah.
So just look at what worked for you before, look at it and see what would work for you again.
Right.
And then the next step, as we know, we can have many plans in life, many goals, but there will be no results if you don't put it into action.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
for you to put it into action is first you need to look at all of these things, and then you need to consider what is the first thing that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have this list of things that I think will work this time.
Yeah.
First step would be the easiest thing for you to do. So if you've identified that, put a number next to it. Number 1. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And then go down that list of your new plan and do the same thing. Okay, this is the second thing that I'm going to do. This is the third thing that I'm going to do. Until you've numbered the order of every single thing that you want to do to carry out your plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Then go ahead, put it into action.
Right.
Test it out.
Right.
See if it works, right?
Right.
And then continue to work through it in the order that you have put down against it until you have overcome that challenge.
Right.
So you get to the other side, right? You get to the other side of that challenge. You say, whoa, okay, so I've overcome it. And then the last thing you need to do is, and this is so important, because every time we put a plan in, and it's everything, it's not just life, it's work, whatever.
Right.
You need to evaluate.
Right.
So we need to evaluate this plan that we have, and we say, okay, so how well did it work? What worked? What didn't work?
Right.
What resource did I use was most useful? What didn't I use? Why didn't I use it? And is something that I can use in another situation? And is this something that I can use in my life?
Mm-hmm.
And if I did that, what would be the benefits to me? How would my life improve if I use this?
Right.
So can you see from the way that I'm heading, I'm telling you that this becomes a master resilience plan.
Right. Okay.
You can employ in any situation. And it's a living document.
Right.
You can modify it, you can take stuff out, you can add to it. As you use it and you work through it, it will live and breathe alongside you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Great. Yeah. I'm writing down master resilience plan. Right.
Yes.
Okay. Good. All right. I think we are overrun by 4 minutes.
Yeah.
I think we can do one more probably next week, the week after next. Rozana, thank you so much. Once
you.
again, Rozana, I really like the sharing that you had today. Thank you so much, and
Thank you
give
for
big
having
hand.
me.
Yes. Thank you everybody for joining.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
a big hand, Rozana. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.
Easy. Bye bye.
See you again. Bye bye. Thank
Have
you
a
so
good day.
much. Bye.
Bye.
Same to you. Right. Thank you so much for everybody for joining the Ice Chat. This is Cairo. See you again. I put this on YouTube, our channel, Detail Leadership. Thank you so much. Bye bye.